Welcome back, students. This is Dr. Mercado. I hope all of you are doing well and are having a great week thus far. This week, we are covering Chapter 18, which deals with accounting for long-term assets. Okay, we are approaching the end of the semester, so it's super important that we keep up with all of our assignments and give it our all so we can finish the semester strong. Okay, we are close to the finish line. Okay, now. This week covers accounting for long-term assets. In this chapter, we're going to learn about different types of long-term assets, whether they be tangible. These are assets that have a physical substance, or intangible assets. Okay, this could be like patents, copyrights, trademarks, franchises, and goodwill. So we're going to learn about both types of long-term assets. We're also going to learn about the wear of these assets as time passes. So basically, an asset's useful life expires. A portion of the asset's cost is recognized as an expense. Usually, we refer to this portion of the item that has been worn out as writing off the asset. Okay. A different term is used to describe this expense for the different types of long-term assets that we have. For example, for plant assets, the expense is called depreciation. Okay. For natural resources, it's called depletion. And for intangible assets, it's called amortization. It's basically the same thing. It's just a different word for each type of asset classification. Okay. So in this particular chapter, we're going to learn the proper accounting for property, plant, and equipment, natural resources, and intangible assets using a variety of methods. Okay. Now, it is very important that before you attempt your homework assignment, you read the chapter. There's a lot of information included in the chapter that's going to help you complete your assignments, okay? Now, in this particular lecture, I am going to be going over problem 18-7. This is a very important problem. It is long. It is a long problem, so anticipate spending quite a bit of time. But I decided to go over it because it is a little bit complex. That way you can have a good resource to go back to so you can see how it is being solved. Okay. So let me jump over to the problem. Okay. This is problem 18-7A, and it deals with the straight line, declining balance, sum of the year's digits, and maker's methods. Now, this is a wonderful problem because it gives you basically calculations for 4 different types of depreciation methods. So guess what? Because it's such a fabulous problem, you're going to see it on your test, okay? So make sure that you know how to complete this problem, okay? So, they're giving us information here. They say a machine is purchased on January the 1st at a cost of $59,000. It is expected to serve for 8 years, and it has a salvage value of $3,000. Required. We are required to prepare a schedule showing depreciation for each of the 8 years and the book value at the end of each year using the following methods: the straight line, the double declining balance, and the sum of years' digits. Then requirement number 2 says, assuming a 7-year class of property, compute maker's depreciation expense for each of the assets' life. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. Okay, so let's see, what are we going to do? The first one we're going to have is a straight line. Now, the straight line method is a piece of cake. Super easy. Okay, one calculation, and it basically what it means is we're going to depreciate the same amount every year for the number of years that we're going to hold this asset. Okay, so I went ahead and I included the definition. This is coming straight out of your book. So it says a straight line method is a depreciation method in which the depreciable cost of an asset is allocated equally over the years of the asset's useful life. Okay, so what are we going to do here? So the first thing we have to do is we're going to have to figure out the depreciable cost. Okay, how much are we going to depreciate? Okay, maybe I should write it here. Maybe I should insert. Let me insert some cells here. Okay, so what I have here is my cost minus my salvage value is going to give me my depreciable cost. Okay, so my cost of my asset is $59,000. My salvage value, basically this is what you anticipate the asset being valued at after we've depreciated it for the 8 years, we think it's valued at $3,000. That's going to give me a depreciable cost of $59,000, and then I'm going to divide by 3, so it's 59,000, and I'm going to subtract 3,000. That's going to give me a depreciable cost of $56,000. Okay, that is what I'm going to depreciate. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my depreciable cost divided by the useful life. Useful life to get the annual depreciation. Okay. Okay. So my depreciable cost, we just calculated it at $56,000. And this asset should have a useful life, it says here, of 8 years. Okay. So we're going to get the 56,000 divided by 8 years. So that means that every year I'm going to depreciate it $7,000. Okay. That is my annual depreciation, $7,000. Okay. So that is how I calculate my depreciation for each year for this specific asset. Okay. Okay, so remember, the first thing we have to do is calculate the depreciable cost. That's your cost minus your salvage value. Okay, so we've got the 59,000 minus the 3,000. That gives me $56,000. That is what I'm going to depreciate, my depreciable cost. So then you get your depreciable cost of 56,000 and you divide it by its useful life. The problem said that this asset was going to be good for 8 years. And then that gives me my annual depreciation. So every year, my annual depreciation is going to be $7,000. Okay. That is not going to change. It's straight line every single year. My depreciation is going to be $7,000. Now, let's do our book value. Okay. We're going to start off with our depreciable cost, which is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our ending book value, okay? We're going to get our ending book value. So, to get our ending book value, we're going to get the cost of the asset. This asset cost me $59,000, okay? And I'm going to subtract my annual depreciation, which was $7,000, okay? So that gives me $52,000. Okay? So what did I do once again? I got my cost, which was $59,000, minus my annual depreciation of $7,000. That gives me $52,000 for year 1. For year 2, I'm going to get my $52,000 and I'm going to subtract my $7,000, the annual depreciation. So that's going to give me $45,000. Okay? And let me make this, there we go. And then for year 3, well, I always start with my prior year's ending book value, which is $45,000, minus the $7,000 depreciation for this year. That takes me to $38,000. Okay. I'm going to get my $38,000, which is my ending book value, minus my annual depreciation for year 4. And that gives me $31,000. Okay. Then I'm going to get my $31,000 and I'm going to subtract my $7,000 annual depreciation. That takes me down to $24,000. Okay. Remember, you always start with your ending book value. Your ending book value is $24,000. I'm going to subtract my annual depreciation of 7. That gives me $17,000. Okay. I'm going to get my $17,000 and I'm going to subtract my annual depreciation of $7,000. That gives me $10,000. Okay. And then I'm going to get my I'm going to get my $10,000. 10,000 and I'm going to subtract my 7,000 and that gives me $3,000. Now this $3,000 must equal your residual value. Okay. So those $3,000 right there need to equal your residual value, which the residual value or the salvage value, what they state here, is $3,000. Okay, so let me change this to salvage value. I don't want to confuse you. It's just some texts use residual, others use salvage, okay? So your salvage value is going to be $3,000. That is the number that you have to end with on year number 8. You're depreciating this asset all the way down to its salvage value, okay? So that number at the very end of year 8 needs to be the same amount as your salvage value. If it doesn't, then that means there's some kind of error, okay? So that is my straight line. Very straightforward, nothing complicated. Why? Because my annual depreciation is the same every single year. This is the most basic type of depreciation that is used, okay? Now, letter B is double declining balance method. Okay. Now, the double declining balance method is an accelerated depreciation method in which the book value is multiplied by double the straight line rate. Okay. The salvage value is not considered in determining the annual depreciation. That's very important. And however, the asset's book value should not be allowed to fall below its estimated salvage value. So that means when you're depreciating, you need to stop depreciating at the salvage value level. Once you reach that salvage value of $3,000 in this particular case, you no longer depreciate. Okay, so that's how this particular double declining balance works. Okay. And let me move this down here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what are we going to do here? Okay, so let me insert another row so we can do the formula. Okay, how am I going to calculate my rate? This is what we're looking at, calculating your rate. How do we calculate the rate? Okay, so the rate is equal to, okay, we're going to get 100%, okay, and we're going to divide it by the number of years that we're going to depreciate this asset, okay, which in this case it's 8 years. Well, let me put number is being depreciated, okay, and then we're going to multiply it by 2, okay. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to get 100% divided by the number of years the asset is being depreciated times 2, okay. So we're going to get 100%, okay. I'm going to divide that by the number of years. The number of years this asset is going to be good is for 8 years. And then I'm going to multiply by 2. And let's see what that gives us. Okay, let me just, there we go. Make some changes here. There we go. So we're going to get 100%. We're going to divide by 8 years. That gives me 12.5. And then I'm going to double it. It's a double declining. I'm going to multiply it by 2 so I can double it. And that gives me 25%. Okay. So my rate is 25%. That's going to be my rate every year. Okay, I'm going to copy that down. Okay. So the trick here, or the key here, is to calculate your rate correctly. You get this incorrect, then everything else will be incorrect. Oh, excuse me. So it says the salvage value, okay, so it says the rate is equal to 100% divided by the number of years the asset is being depreciated times 2. So we got 100% divided by 8 years times 2. That gives me 25%. Now we're going to start off with the beginning book value, okay? So it says here the salvage value is not considered in determining the annual depreciation. So my book value is going to be the cost. I spent on this asset $59,000. Okay, I've got a depreciable rate of 25% using the double declining balance. So my annual depreciation is, you're going to multiply your book value times your 25%, and that's going to give you $14,750. So what did I do there? I got the $59,000, and I multiply it by 25%, and that gives me 14,750. Okay, so now I'm going to get my book value, my beginning book value, which was 59,000. I'm going to subtract my annual depreciation, which was 14,750, and that gives me an ending book value of 44,250. Okay. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to bring this ending book value down to my year number 2. Year number 2 by book value is 44,250. Okay. I'm going to get the 44,250 and I'm going to multiply it by the 25%. That gives me an annual depreciation of 11,062.50. I'm going to get my beginning book value minus my annual depreciation, and that gives me my ending book value of 33,000. Okay, and let me move these so we don't round. 33,187.50. Okay, so book value minus annual depreciation gets you your ending book value. Once I've got that calculated, I'm going to bring that down. Okay, so I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to get that 33,187.50, and I'm going to multiply it by my rate of 25%. That gives me 8,297. Okay, and then these so it's 8,296.88. Okay, because they're not asking us to round, so we need to keep those 2 digits. Okay, so now I get my beginning book value minus my annual depreciation, and that gives me 24,890.63. Well, let me see. How are they rounding here? Let me see. 33,187.50 minus 8296.88. It should be 24,890.62. So the system is rounding incorrect, and it's rounding incorrect in Excel. So I need to use the round formula. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to round to 2 digits. Okay. Okay. And then this one, we should be using the round formula. That way it rounds up. This is something we need to remember when we're using Excel, the rounding of the issues, you see? So now it changed it to 24,890.62. Okay, if you are using Excel, make sure that before you do any of your calculations, you insert the round function in front of it. That way, and you round to 2 decimal places. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So the ending book value is 24,890.62. Okay, I'm going to bring that down, 24,890.62. I entered it incorrect, 24,890.62. And I'm going to multiply it against the 25%. I'm going to do the calculator now. That way you can see it's the same thing. It's just which method, if you want to use it in Excel or if you just want to do it manually. Okay. Now let's look at this number. This is 6,222.655. We're going to look at that third digit. If that third digit is a 5 or greater, we round up. That will be 66. If that third digit is between a 0 and a 4, you keep that second number as is. In this case, we're going to round to 6,222.66. We're rounding because that third digit is a 5. So we're going to round that second digit up 1 to 66. So then that'll be 6,222.66. Okay. Your ending book value is going to be your beginning book value minus your annual depreciation for that year. That'll give you 18,667.96. Okay, so you just keep on doing the same thing over and over. It's just repetition. Okay, let's see. Now we're going to bring down the 18,667.96. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and round, and I'm going to go ahead and do round. And then it'll be that, the beginning book value times the percentage or the rate. and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to enter to round to the 2 decimals, and that gives me 4,666.99. Okay, now I can get my beginning book value minus my annual depreciation. That gives me $14,000 with 97 cents. I'm going to bring that number down. Okay, and then I'm going to multiply it by 25%. Okay, let's look at that third digit. That third digit is a 2. Because it's a 2, it's less than 5. I'm going to keep that second digit as is. So the amount of my annual depreciation is 3,500.24. Okay, and then I'm going to get my 14,000 minus my 3,500.24. That gives me 10,500.73. Okay. So you get your book value, 14,097, minus your annual depreciation of 3,500.24, and that gives you 10,500.73. You bring that down, okay, and you multiply it, okay, 10,500.73 times 25%, that gives you 2,625.182. That third digit is only a 2, so I'm going to keep it as is, okay, as 2625.18. Okay, so it'll be 10,500.73 minus 2625.18. That gives me 7,875.55. Okay, we bring that number down, 7875.55, and this is the last year that we're depreciating. Now remember, it says the asset's book value should never be allowed to fall below the estimated salvage value. My salvage value is $3,000, okay? So we should not let our annual depreciation or our book value fall below the 3,000. So if you see that it's going to fall below the 3,000, then we need to adjust our annual depreciation. And there's an example of that on your textbook. So let's see how much this is. 7875.55 times 25%. That gives me 1,968.887. Because that third digit is a 7, it's greater than 5. I'm going to round up to 89. So then that will be 1,968.89. And then my ending book value, 7875.55 minus 1968.89. That gives me my ending book value of 5,906.66. Okay. Okay. That is my ending book value as of the 8th year. Okay. So we didn't get close to that $3,000 salvage value that we had. But in case we would have continued, we are going to depreciate until we reach the ending book value of $3,000. Once we reach 3,000, we stop depreciating. But this is the calculations for the double declining balance. The key is to calculate your rate correctly. And your rate is 100% divided by the number of years the asset is being depreciated for times 2. And in this case, it was 100% divided by 8 years times 2, and that gave me the 25% rate. Okay, so that is the second requirement, which was the double declining balance. Now, the third requirement is the sum of the year's digits. Okay, and it says to round to 2 decimal places. Okay, so the sum of the year's digits method is a depreciation method in which the annual depreciation is determined by multiplying the depreciable cost by a schedule of fractions. Okay, schedule of fractions. So I've set it up for you. We've got the 8 years. That does not change. The first thing we need to figure out is our depreciable cost. And your depreciable cost, I've got the item down here, the formula for calculating the sum of the year's digits. It's your cost minus your salvage value. So the cost of the asset, is $59,000. My salvage value is $3,000. So my depreciable cost is $56,000. And that $56,000 is going to be the base every single year. So I'm going to copy that down. In this particular method, this is what we're going to do. We're going to use $56,000 for all of our calculations, okay? Okay, now the fun part here is calculating the rate, okay? So to calculate the rate, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the remaining useful life from the beginning of the current year. So in this particular case, we still have 8 years to go. So that's gonna be an 8, and I'm gonna divide that by the sum of the year's digits. Okay. So what does that mean? We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna sum all of our years. So I'm going to sum how many years are we depreciating this asset for? Well, we're depreciating the asset for 8 years. So I'm going to sum all of those digits. It's going to be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8. And that gives me 36. That's going to be my denominator. Okay. So my rate, let me text. It will be 8 over 36, okay? So my rate is going to be 8 divided by 36. For year number 2, I'm going to have 7 years to depreciate over 36. For year number 3, I'm going to have 6 years to depreciate over 36. So we're going to be deducting 1 year until we fully depreciate, okay? 6 over 36, 5 over 36, 4 over 36, 3 over 36, 2 over 36, and 1 over 36. That is our rate. So the first number represents the remaining useful life from the beginning of the current year. And the second digit is the sum of the year's digits. That's where you add all of the years. So year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Whatever sum you get, that's going to be your denominator. Okay? So now we can calculate our annual depreciation. How are we going to calculate our annual depreciation? We're going to get our depreciable cost times our rate. Okay? And let's see what that gives us. Well, I don't think it's going to work because of the formula, but let's see. Let's use the calculator. Okay? So it'll be 56,000 times 8 over 36. And that gives me 12,444.44. Okay, so what did I do? I got my depreciable cost times my rate, 8 over 36, 12,444.44. Once you've got that, you're going to get your depreciable cost of 56,000 minus your annual depreciation of 12,444.44. That gives you, let's see, did I enter it correctly? 56,000 minus 12,444.44. Oh, for the ending book value, we are not using it should be the 59. We're not using the depreciable cost. We're using to start off with the cost of the asset. So it'll be 59,000 minus 12,444.44, and that will give me 46,555.56. Okay. 46,555.56. So your ending book value, let me put a little note here at the bottom. Okay. Your ending book value. Your ending book value is going to be equal to your cost minus your annual depreciation. Cost minus annual depreciation. So then that means that our cost is $59,000 minus my annual depreciation is 12,444.44. That gave me 46,555.56. Okay. So that's how you get your ending book value. And you do that only on year number 1, you start off with your cost. Okay. So that's how you do that. And then for year number 2, the depreciable cost is used in calculating the annual depreciation. The cost is used to calculate or determine the ending book value. So for year number 2, I'm going to get my 56,000, which is my depreciable cost, and I'm going to multiply by 7 over 36. That gives me 10,888. And let's look at that third digit. It's greater than a 5, so I'm going to round up. Okay? So I'll be 10,888.89. Okay? Now I'm going to get my book value, which was 46,555.56, minus 10,888.89, which is your annual depreciation. And that'll give you 35,666.67. Okay? 35,666.67. Okay? And let me make all of these like that. There we go. Okay? Now we're going to do the annual depreciation, which is your 56,000 times 6 over 36. That gives me 9,333.33. I'm going to get my ending book value, which is your 35,666.67 minus your 9,333.33. And that gives me 26,333.34. Okay? So to calculate year 4, my annual depreciation is going to be the 56,000 times 5 over 36. That gives me 7,777. Look at that third digit is greater than a 5, so I'm going to round up to 78. Okay? So then that'll be 7,000. It's very important that we do the rounding correctly, because if not, your problem is going to be wrong. So be very careful on your rounding. Okay? To get the ending book value, we're going to get our ending book value from the last year, which was 26,333.34 minus the annual depreciation of 7,777.78. That gives me 18,555.56. Okay, so we're going to continue the same calculations. For year number 5, we're going to get the 56,000. And I'm going to multiply by 4 over 36. And that gives me 6,222.22. Okay, so we just multiply the depreciable cost times the rate. Okay, and then once you're done calculating the annual depreciation, you get your prior year's beginning book value, which is the 18,555.56, minus the annual depreciation of 6,222.22. That gives me 12,333.34. 12,333.34. Okay. Year number 6, we're going to go ahead and we're going to calculate the annual depreciation. It'll be 56,000 times 3 over 36. That gives me 4,666.67. Okay, 4,666.67. And it's 67 because that third digit is greater than a 5. Okay. To get my ending book value, I'm going to get my 12,333.34 minus my annual depreciation of 4,666.67. That gives me 7,666.67. Okay. So it's just tedious. It's not difficult calculations. Once you got your rates down, it's just a matter of multiplying. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to do this in Excel. 56,000 times, excuse me, 2 over 36. That gives me 3,111.11. My ending book value is my prior book value minus my annual depreciation. And that gives me 4,555.56. Now we get to the last year. Okay. So the last year we have 56,000 times 1 over 36. That gives me 1,555.555. Because that third digit is a 5, I'm going to round up. And that will be 1,555.56. We then subtract my prior year's book value minus my annual depreciation. and that gives me 3,000. That needs to equal, once you reach your final year, it needs to equal to your salvage value, okay, of 3,000. That salvage value that they provide you with here in the problem, okay? That way you know that you did it correctly, okay? So that number needs to equal to your salvage value when you're done depreciating for the specified term, okay? So that is how you do it, okay? That is the sum of the years, okay? So that is the first requirement, okay? Now the second requirement asks us to assume a 7-year class of property and compute maker's depreciation expense for each of the assets' life. So in this case, they're not asking us for the book value, they're asking us for the depreciation expense for the year, okay? So we start off with the original cost of the asset. This asset cost $59,000. So my original cost is $59,000, okay? I'm going to copy that down to my 8 years because that's not going to change. That stays the same, your original cost. Then we have to get this rate for makers, okay? Now, makers is basically a method of depreciation used for federal income tax purposes on any plant assets acquired after 1986, okay? So, this particular method allows for a 100% write-off of the original cost, and it basically provides you with tables with rates that you need to utilize to be able to do your calculations, okay? So on figure 18.3 of your textbook, there is the maker's depreciation rates for selected assets. Now, in this particular case, it says that we have a machine that is being purchased. So now, and they're asking us in the problem to use maker's depreciation expense for, where did I read that? Let me see. Because okay, right here, assuming a 7-year class of property. So they're telling you this is a 7-year class of property. So I go back to my maker's table and I locate my 7-year column, okay? And then we have all of these rates provided. And the 7-year column is used for office furniture, fixtures, and most machinery, okay? So this is the rate we're going to be using. This is applicable to this problem, okay? So these are the rates that I'm going to be using. I'm going to transfer those rates up here in this particular order from year 1 to 8. So I'm just going to transfer them over, okay? So for the first year is 14.29. For the second year, it's 24.49. Third year is 17.49. Fourth year is 12.49%. Fifth year is 8.93%. Then we have 8.92%. Then we have 8.93%. And then finally, we've got 4.46%. And where am I getting those numbers? From figure 18.3, and we are using the 7-year table. Now be careful because on your homework you might have the 3-year, the 5-year, whatever the case might be. But these are the rates that you're going to be using, okay? So I copied this information. I copied it, sorry about that. I copied it over here on top, okay? Once you've got your rates entered, then it's just a simple mathematical problem here. We just multiply the original cost times the maker's depreciation rate, okay? So we're going to get the cost times the rate, okay? And we're going to do that for all of them, okay? So once you do it in Excel, once you put the formula, you can just, once you enter it in the first cell, you select the cell. There's a little box on the right corner. You drag it down and it'll calculate for you. Okay, that way you don't have to do it manually. Okay, but let me show you an example here, maybe of year number 6. Okay, so for year number 6, I've got my $59,000, which is my cost. And for year 6, my rate is 8.92%. That gives me $5,262.80, okay, which is correct. Okay, so it's just a matter of getting the original cost times the maker's depreciation rate to get my depreciation expense for that particular period. Okay, so that is how you do requirement 2. It's just the original cost times the maker's depreciation rate, which you're going to get from figure 18.3. Okay, so there's a lot going on in the problem. Straight line method, double declining balance method, some of the years method, and then we've got the makers as well. Okay, so this is going to be on your test. Make sure that you do know how to solve it. If you have any questions after you listen to the lecture, please contact me. Now for this number 2, they're asking us to compute maker's depreciation expense for each year. We can get a total for the 8-year period. Let's see how much we depreciated. And that would give us the $59,000, which is what the value of the asset was worth. When we use the maker systems, we don't use or we don't take into account the salvage value. Okay, so at the end, your total for your depreciation expense should be the cost of your asset, which in this case, it was for $59,000. Okay. So once again, you're going to be seeing this on your homework. You're going to be seeing this on your test. So make sure that you practice. And if you have questions, concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I want to wish you all a fabulous rest of your week. And until next time, thank you.